What happens when the man who built a pizza empire returns to his first location and no one knows who he is? Zane Fuller leaned back in his chair, watching the security footage from Store 6, his first. The one where it all started 16 years ago. What was once a tiny hole in the wall with a broken oven and 2 folding chairs had turned into a chain of 16 locations across 3 states. Now, he was the CEO. But somewhere along the way, something changed. He stared at the screen. It was muted, but the stress in the kitchen was obvious. One girl was wiping her eyes with her sleeve while kneading dough. A young man dropped a pizza tray and flinched like he expected to be yelled at. Zane paused the feed. He hadn't been back to Store 6 in years. The staff had all turned over. The manager? A guy named Todd. Zane had only seen his name in quarterly reports, never met him. His gut twisted. He hated relying on reports. He stood, grabbed his hoodie, and called his assistant. "I'm going in, as a new hire. Set it up with HR. I want to start tomorrow." She hesitated. "Do you want me to notify the district manager?" "No, I want to see what's really going on." He'd done this once before, years ago. But now his beard had grown out, his hair was longer, and he wore glasses. He looked more like a tired college grad than the founder of a pizza chain. No one at Store 6 had ever met him. In a company this size, most employees thought of the CEO like a distant figurehead, especially the newer ones. Perfect. The next morning, Zane walked into Store 6 as Zach, the newest trainee. He wore a faded hoodie, jeans, and a blank stare. No one blinked twice. Behind the counter, a girl with dark curls was folding boxes. She looked up and gave him a tired smile. "Hey, you the new guy?" "Yeah, Zach." She stuck out her hand. "Carly, I'll show you the ropes. Don't worry, Todd's not here yet. He only shows up after 2. "Lucky us." Zane followed her to the back. The kitchen was cramped, loud, and hot. A guy in his 20s was cutting vegetables at lightning speed. Another was pulling a bubbling pizza from the oven with sweat dripping down his temple. "Busy?" Zane asked. "Every day," Carly muttered. "We lost 2 people last week. One got a better job, the other just walked out mid-shift." "Why?" She hesitated. "You'll see." Zane spent the next few hours watching, learning, and pretending. Carly was sharp. She handled 3 tasks at once and still found time to help him without being asked. The others were clearly stretched thin but kept moving. No one slacked. At one point, a customer came in furious about a messed-up order. The cashier, a teenager named Jaden, was clearly new and panicked. Carly stepped in, smoothed things over, and gave the guy a coupon. Zane watched the whole thing. She didn't get flustered, just handled it. By noon, the lunch rush hit. Orders piled up. The oven glowed red. Zane found himself running between the prep table and the front, trying to keep up. He was rusty, but muscle memory kicked in. Then the door slammed. Todd had arrived. He was in his 40s, stocky, with slicked back hair and a Bluetooth still in his ear. He had that kind of presence that made the room tense up. He didn't greet anyone, just walked in and shouted, "Why is the floor sticky?" "Who cleaned last night?" Jaden flinched. I think Marco's closed last night, but don't think, no, that's your job, isn't it, to know things?" Zane turned, watching Todd point a finger at the kid's face. I think I can mop that up," Jaden offered, stepping forward. "You think?" Todd snapped. "No. You'll clean the entire floor after your shift, and maybe next time you'll do your job before I have to embarrass you." Zane gritted his teeth. Jaden looked down, cheeks red. No one said a word. Todd moved on. It happened again 20 minutes later. A customer complained that a pizza had too much sauce. Todd pulled Carly aside and hissed, "Maybe if you paid more attention and less time talking to that new guy, we wouldn't be screwing up orders." Carly's lips tightened. "I made that pizza exactly how the ticket said." "Oh, so now you're perfect?" "No, Todd, I'm just tired of save it," he snapped. "You want to run this store, go buy your own." Zane looked at Carly. Her whole face changed right then. Not hurt, not angry, just worn out. And she wasn't the only one. By the end of the shift, Zane had seen enough to know something wasn't right. This wasn't a bad team. They were overworked, undersupported, and constantly walking on eggshells. He walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at himself in the mirror. This was his place. His name was on the lease, and they were afraid of a guy like Todd. He took a deep breath. Tomorrow he'd come back, and if it happened again, he wasn't staying silent. The next morning, Zane arrived 20 minutes early. The lights were still off and the front door was locked. He waited outside, leaning against the brick wall near the back entrance. A cold breeze scraped through the alley, and the smell of old dough and fryer grease clung to the air. Carly showed up not long after, hoodie sleeves pulled down over her hands. She looked surprised to see him. "You beat me here," she said, unlocking the door. "Most people don't come in early unless they're avoiding something." She pushed it open and flicked on the lights. "I figured I'd get a head start," Zane replied, stepping in. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she filled the sink, dumped in sanitizer tabs, and started prepping the knives. She looked like someone who had learned to keep moving as a way to avoid thinking too hard. Once the prep station was set up, she glanced over. "That guy, Todd, you met him yesterday. He's not always like that." Zane reached for the flour bin. "He doesn't seem like someone who changes much," she shrugged. "He has his days. Yesterday was just worse than usual." Zane didn't push. He knew the tone, resigned, careful, halfway between honesty and self-protection. He'd heard it enough over the years from employees trying to keep their jobs while surviving the ones in charge. As the morning wore on, more of the team trickled in. Jadden looked like he hadn't slept. His apron was stained, and he walked with the slow dread of someone expecting another bad shift. A tall guy named Leon showed up soon after, barely speaking before heading straight to the ovens. No one joked. No one lingered. By the time they opened, the tension was already thick. It wasn't loud or chaotic. It was quiet in the way machines are quiet just before they break down. Around 11, a woman in a collared shirt and slacks came in through the side door. She looked around the kitchen with the scanning eyes of someone who'd been sent to check boxes. She didn't introduce herself, just asked for Todd. "He's not here yet," Carly said without looking up. The woman sighed and checked her tablet. "He said he'd meet me here by 11. I'm doing a routine audit. Inventory, scheduling, compliance. You know the drill." Carly didn't answer. Zane noticed her shoulders stiffen. The woman turned to him. "New." "Yeah," he said. She didn't ask for his name, just tapped something on her screen and walked into the back cooler. Carly waited for the door to shut before speaking. "That's regional. Her name's Denise. She comes in once a month. Never stays long." Zane wiped his hands on a towel. "She always talked to people like that." "She talks to Todd worse, but he likes her, calls her D when she's not around." By noon, the lunch crowd began to build. Jadden ran the register with the kind of mechanical precision that said he was trying not to mess up. Zane helped Leon with oven rotation, while Carly bounced between dough prep and order assembly. A man came in with 3 kids and ordered 2 large pizzas and sodas. 15 minutes later, he came back to the counter, holding a slice in one hand and waving with the other. "This thing's burnt on the bottom," he said, holding it up for everyone to see. Carly stepped in. "Sorry about that, we'll remake it." The man wasn't satisfied. "I already waited 15 minutes. Now I gotta wait again." "We'll make it priority," she said, already pulling a new dough ball. The guy kept going. "You people don't even check your food before handing it out. There's kids here. I'm not trying to eat charcoal." Zane saw Jadden freeze. Leon turned but didn't say anything. Carly kept her tone level. "I understand. We'll fix it right away." Todd walked in right as the man was raising his voice again. He stopped, looked at the scene for half a second, and then clapped his hands once. "All right, what's the problem now?" The customer turned to him. "This girl gave me burnt pizza. Look at this." Todd took the slice, glanced at it, and then looked at Carly. "Seriously, you can't even manage one order without screwing it up." Carly opened her mouth to respond, but Todd cut her off. "Go clean the bathrooms, I'll handle this." She froze. "I was about to remake, now." She stepped back, blinking fast. Then she turned and walked toward the back hallway. Todd handed the man a coupon. "We'll remake both pies on the house." "Sorry about that." Once the man sat down, Todd turned to the rest of them. Can we get one shift without a circus? Just one? Zane didn't speak, but his jaw clenched hard enough to ache. Denise came out of the cooler just then. All good back there. Some of the labels are a day off. Fix that? Todd nodded. Will do. She turned and walked out the way she came. By 2 o'clock, the lunch rush slowed. Zane found Carly reassembling the mop bucket near the back. Her face was unreadable, but her hands moved with a tightness that gave her away. He approached, speaking low. You were doing fine. That guy was just looking for something to complain about. She didn't look up. Doesn't matter. Todd always picks someone. Zane leaned against the wall. You ever think about leaving? I've thought about it every week since March. She looked up. But rent's due. And I've got a little brother, he's 16, trying to get through school. I cover most of it. Zane nodded. You ever talk to anyone above Todd, regional, corporate? She gave a short laugh. And say what? That my manager's a bully, that we're understaffed. They know. They see the turnover numbers. They just call it market volatility. Zane stayed quiet for a moment. She stood up, wiping her hands. You're new, but you'll see. People stay until they break or they leave before they do. That night after close, Todd called an impromptu meeting. Zane stayed quiet in the back as the rest of the crew gathered near the prep table. Todd leaned against a stool, arms crossed. All right. We've got a district visit next week. That means full compliance. Dress code, clean lines, no expired stock. I want no surprises. Leon raised a hand slightly. We're short 2 people. We can't cover all the hours. Todd waved him off. Then work smarter. Nobody's getting overtime. Figure it out. Jadden spoke next. I've got finals next week. I can't pick up any extra shifts. Todd's eyes narrowed. Then don't pick up shifts. But don't expect to be here long if you're not reliable. Zane stepped forward. What's the backup plan if someone calls out? Todd turned. Who are you again? Zach, Zane said. Just asking. Todd's tone turned sharp. The backup plan is we deal with it. You got a problem with that? Zane held his gaze. No, just trying to understand the system. Todd scoffed and turned back to the others. We're done here. Clean up and clock out. After the meeting, Carly passed by Zane near the lockers. Careful, she said. He doesn't like questions. Zane gave a slow nod. Noted. He didn't sleep much that night. Too many pieces were coming together. A manager who ruled by fear. A regional team that didn't look past spreadsheets. And a group of young employees carrying a store on their backs without anyone giving them credit. He had seen enough. Tomorrow, he'd come back. But this time, he wasn't going to keep pretending. The next morning, Zane didn't wear the hoodie. He came in wearing a pressed button-down, dark jeans, and the same calm expression he used in boardroom meetings. He didn't clock in. He walked straight past the prep line, past the ovens, and into the front of the store. It was just before opening, and the crew was still getting ready. Carly was wiping down the soda machine. Jadden was counting the register. Todd wasn't there yet. Leon looked up from the oven controls. Can I help you? Zane didn't answer right away. He waited until everyone had turned to look. My name is Zane Fuller, he said. I own this company. The silence was immediate and complete. No one moved. Jadden's hands hovered over the register, frozen mid-count. Carly straightened up slowly, still holding the rag. Leon blinked. Wait, what? I founded this store 16 years ago, Zane said. This one right here. I ran the ovens, cleaned the floors, took orders. I know every square inch of this place. Carly still hadn't spoken. Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if she were trying to piece together a puzzle that had been sitting in front of her all along. I've been working here the last 2 days undercover, Zane said. Just watching, listening, learning. The front door opened. Todd stepped in, talking into his Bluetooth. He didn't see Zane right away. He headed straight toward the back, glancing at the crew. Let's go, people. Slicers better be clean today. I'm not covering for anyone. He stopped mid-sentence when he noticed Zane standing near the counter. His eyes flicked to the shirt, the posture, the attention in the room. The Bluetooth came out of his ear. Can I help you? Todd asked. Zane turned fully toward him. You manage this store, Todd nodded cautiously. Yeah, who's asking? I'm the owner, Zane Fuller. Todd's face barely changed, but his eyes did. They darted to Carly, then to the others, then back to Zane. Didn't realize we had a visit scheduled. You didn't, Zane said. And that's exactly why I came. Todd took a step closer. Look, if this is about yesterday's customer complaint, it's not. Zane's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It's about the way you speak to your team, the way you run this store, the culture I saw over the last 2 days. Or rather, the lack of one. Todd's mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. You've built a climate of fear here, Zane continued. People don't make mistakes because they're careless. They make them because they're afraid. Of you. Todd folded his arms. I run a tight ship. The numbers have been steady. We hit our targets last quarter. I've seen the numbers, Zane said. I've also seen the turnover rates, and I've seen how many hours you've scheduled these people with no additional support. He turned to Carly. How many times in the last month have you worked a full shift without a break? She hesitated, then answered. At least 5. Zane nodded once, then looked at Jadden. How long have you been here? 3 weeks. Has anyone trained you? Jadden shook his head. Zane turned back to Todd. That's not tight management, that's neglect. Todd's stance shifted, defensive now. You think you can walk in here and judge me after 2 days? I can, Zane said, because I've done your job and I did it without making people feel small. Leon stepped forward. Can I say something? Zane looked at him. Go ahead. Carly's the only reason this place hasn't fallen apart. She covers for everyone. She trains new hires without being asked. She's been holding this place together for months. Zane looked at Carly. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Todd gave a short laugh. So what now? You gonna fire me in front of your staff? No, Zane said. You're going to step outside with me now. They went out the back door. Zane didn't raise his voice, but his tone carried finality. I gave you this store 3 years ago. You were supposed to build people up, not tear them down. I kept order, Todd said. You want results, you need to be tough. You confuse intimidation with leadership, Zane said, and you've created an environment where people feel disposable. That's not what this company stands for. Todd didn't respond. You're being removed as store manager effective immediately, Zane said. You'll be paid for the rest of the week. HR will call you this afternoon. Don't come back in. Todd's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He simply turned and walked off around the side of the building. Zane went back inside. The room was quiet again, but the energy had changed. Not relief, not celebration, just stunned stillness. I'm not here to make a scene, Zane said. And I'm not here to pretend one conversation fixes everything. He looked around at each of them. You've been carrying more weight than you should. That ends today, he turned to Carly. You've been holding this place together. I saw it with my own eyes. I want you to step in as acting manager starting now. Her eyes widened. Me, you've already been doing the job. Now you'll be paid for it. She looked down, then back up. I'm not sure I know how to run a store. You know how to support your team, Zane said. That's what matters. We'll get you the tools you need. Leon stepped forward. Are we getting more staff? Yes, Zane said. I've already spoken to HR. 4 new hires are being processed. You'll have full coverage within 2 weeks. Jadden raised his hand slightly. What about training? You'll get formal training starting tomorrow, Zane said. And until the new hires come in, you'll work reduced hours. No one here is pulling doubles unless they want to. He looked around again. This isn't charity. You've all earned this, but it's also not the finish line. We're rebuilding this place the right way together. There was no applause, no cheering, just quiet acceptance. Which, Zane knew, meant more. He stayed the rest of the day, not as a CEO, but as a team member. He helped with the evening prep, worked the ovens, and watched Carly ease into her new role. She didn't bark orders. She asked questions, checked on people, backed them up. Later, as the store emptied out, Zane sat with her at the front counter. I didn't expect this, she said. I didn't either, he replied, but I'm glad I came back. She looked at him. Why did you? Because I stopped trusting the reports, Zane said, and I started trusting my gut again. She nodded slowly. He leaned forward. This place was never supposed to be about one person running the show. It was supposed to be a team. Somewhere people could grow. If we lost that, it's on me. She didn't say anything, but her expression softened. Zane stood. I'll be back next week, not undercover, just to check in. All right, she said. As he walked out into the night, he looked back once. The lights inside were still on. The staff was still cleaning, but the room felt different now. Not fixed, not perfect, but starting to heal. And that, Zane thought, was worth everything. 2 weeks later, the morning air hung heavy with heat as Zane pulled into the lot behind Store 6. He parked near the loading dock, the same spot he used to claim back when he was scraping dough off trays and patching up the broken cooler with duct tape. The exterior hadn't changed much over the years, same chipped red bricks, same warped awning above the back door, but something inside was different. Not everything, not yet, but enough. He stepped inside and immediately noticed a clipboard hanging by the dish sink. A fresh schedule was pinned to it, printed and color-coded, not scribbled last minute with a Sharpie. The prep station was already stocked and the dough bins were labeled by time and weight. No one had asked him to come in today, but he needed to see what had taken root after the storm. Carly stood by the counter, scanning a tablet. Her hair was pulled back, sleeves rolled to her elbows, a new black apron fitted neatly over her clothes. She didn't look up right away. "You're early," she said without turning. "We're not open for another hour. I figured I'd get in sometime before the rush, thought I'd see how you're holding up." She tapped something on the screen and finally looked at him. "Barely, but we're upright." Zane leaned against the counter, watching her navigate between tasks. There was no hesitation in her steps, no glances toward the door to check for someone coming in to criticize, just focused movement. "You're getting into the rhythm," he said. "Still missing 2 hires," she replied. "One quit before orientation, the other starts next week, but the crew's adjusting. We're rotating better and nobody's pulled a double since last Friday." "Anyone pushing back on the changes?" "No, at least not the staff." Carly set the tablet down. "District called twice this week, asked why the labor costs were climbing." Zane raised an eyebrow. "And I told them to call you," he nodded once. "They did. We're going to shift expectations on that. Some stores operate lean because they have to, not because they should." Carly tilted her head. "You actually told them that." "I did, and I meant it. Profit doesn't mean much if you burn through people to get there." She didn't respond, but the look she gave him said enough. It wasn't awe or admiration. It was trust. Earned, not given. Jadden walked in from the back, his apron already on, hair damp like he'd rushed from the shower. He gave a short nod to both of them. "I figured we'd get the oven warmed early," he said. "Fridays are stacking up fast." Carly tossed him a towel. "Check the sides this time." Last week the cheese tray leaked again. Already on it. Zane watched the interaction unfold like a system recalibrating itself. Not perfect, not polished, but real. In the back, Leon was slicing peppers with headphones in, bouncing slightly to a beat only he could hear. He caught sight of Zane and pulled one bud out. "Manager's orders," he said, pointing to the cutting board. "Fresh veggies only, no shortcuts." "Good," Zane said. "How's it feel?" "Quieter." "In a good way." Zane let the silence rest a moment before speaking again. "Carly, I've been reviewing compensation structure across the stores. Yours is under median. That's changing today." She blinked. "You're adjusting pay, effective next week. You'll get back pay for the last 2, and I'm submitting a bonus recommendation." She folded her arms slowly. "Why now?" "Because I watched you run a store short-staffed, retrain half the crew, and turn the culture around in less than a month. If that's not leadership, I don't know what is." Her voice dropped slightly. "This isn't going to disappear when the next quarter rolls around, is it?" "No," Zane said. "We're building a different kind of benchmark, one that includes people, not just margins." She nodded once slowly. "Then I'll stay." The words were plain, but they carried weight. A decision made, not assumed. There was a knock at the front window. A delivery driver with a dolly of boxes gestured toward the side entrance. Zane reached for the door. "I've got it," he said. The driver handed off the invoice. "New supplier," he explained. "Your old one dropped out of the region." Zane scanned it. "Looks fair. Thanks. Once the boxes were inside, Carly checked the labels. They actually sent what we ordered, she said, half to herself. They will now, Zane said. We renegotiated. And I eliminated the penalty clause for overages. You won't get dinged for adjusting on the fly. She narrowed her eyes. You really are changing things. I'm trying, but it only matters if it works for the people on the floor. A few more staff filtered in. A girl named Rena, new and still quiet, set her bag down by the lockers. Leon nodded at her and she nodded back. Small but different from the silent arrivals of weeks ago, Zane stepped aside as Carly pulled the team together. All right, she said, loud enough for the room. We're still down one person, so we'll rotate the front. Leon, you and Rena split oven duty. Jadden, I want you shadowing me for scheduling. We're going to start training backups so nobody gets stuck. No one groaned. No one hesitated. Carly turned to Zane. You staying for lunch? I'll cover the register if you need it. She motioned to Jadden. You heard him. As the store opened and customers started filing in, the difference became more visible. Orders were still backed up at times, but there was no panic. Mistakes happened, but they were corrected without blame. At one point, a woman asked for a refund after her pizza came out too thin. Carly handed it over without question and offered a remake. Zane watched from the side as Jadden handled the next order without faltering. Later, during a lull, Carly leaned on the counter beside him. You know what surprised me the most? She asked. What? That you came back at all. Most people at the top stopped looking down. He looked out at the dining room where a few kids were splitting a soda and sharing fries. A father was helping his daughter fold a slice over without spilling it. I stopped looking for too long, Zane said. Now I won't again, she nodded slowly. You ever think about expanding? She asked. Not the company, you, the way you run things. I do, he said, but it starts here. With the people who show up when no one's watching. The timer buzzed from the oven. Leon called out that a pie was ready. Rena boxed it and slid it across the prep counter without missing a beat. Zane looked around once more, then reached for an apron. I'll take the next few at the register, he said. Let you breathe. You're serious, always, she grinned. All right, but if you mess up a coupon scan, I'm docking your imaginary pay, he laughed. Fair. They worked through the rest of the lunch rush side by side, no titles, no hierarchy. Just people doing the job right. At closing, Zane peeled off his apron and hung it near the dish sink. Carly was reviewing inventory at the back, clipboard in hand. He walked over. I'm heading out, she nodded. Thanks for jumping in. You've got this, he said. I know, he paused at the door. Next time I visit, I'll bring coffee, real stuff, not the machine sludge, make it strong, she said, and bring enough for the crew. He stepped out into the warm night air. The street buzzed with the low hum of evening traffic. He glanced back once. Inside, the lights were dimming, mop buckets being filled, trays stacked for the next day. Nothing dramatic. No grand finale, just a store doing its job better than it did yesterday. That was enough.